Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we are going to be unboxing a pretty big box full of awesome stuff. I just recently scored a whole bunch of really cool, and some of which are quite rare, dinosaur figures for a very good price. Every figure in this box cost between $1 to $10, roughly. There's one figure that actually costs about $20, roughly in that area. I can't remember exactly offhand, but you'll see that it was still an incredible deal on a figure like this for $25, I think it was like $22, somewhere in there. But the majority of the other ones cost, again, between $1 and $10. Not going to be able to remember exactly what each one was because I just kind of bought each one individually, and then they all ended up in a giant lot, which was all sent in this box. So I'm really psyched to unbox this, take a look at them here with you guys. And the very first one I'm going to bring in, and there's actually quite a few of these, it is this, and it is a beautiful Stegosaurus. And I'm not entirely sure, but I think these are by a company called Carnegie, and I'm not very familiar with the company. I don't think I've ever owned any figures from this company, or at least not that I can recall. I may, and I may not even realize it, but I don't think I have, and I'm not, again, very familiar with the company, but I can say that the Stegosaurus itself, it's kind of like a minifigure, but it's actually really nice looking. Like, you can see if it would focus, there we go. You can see it's actually quite highly detailed and an overall beautiful looking Stegosaurus. And on top of, we almost knocked him over there. Actually, we did knock him over. And on top of the Stegosaurus, there are quite a few others in here. The Stegosaurus is the only one that came out of the packaging. The rest are still in the packaging. This one is a Therizinosaurus. So we also have a Therizinosaurus included in this package as far as this company goes. And then we've got a pretty crazy looking Spinosaurus in here as well. They all come with these very similar stands that you see right there. Very cool looking Spino. And then there is a Giganotosaurus in here as well, which I actually really like him. I think he looks really darn cool. Overall, also has the stand included. There is also an Amargasaurus in here, which looks beautiful as well, and has the stand. Really like that Amargasaurus. I may actually review these guys if you're interested. Make sure any figures that you see in this unboxing, if you're interested in any of them, let me know in the comments section below. Of course, I will review whatever you guys are interested in. Then we've also got a Tyrannosaurus Rex in here, which does include the stand. Really cool looking Rex also. There is also a Psychania. I think that's what that is. Let's see. Yes, it is. Okay, so we've got a Psychania, and a little hard to see, kind of obscured with the flashy packaging there. It's a little bit bright. Then we have one that's really surprising to me, a Centrosaurus. You don't see that very often, aside from, the beast of the Mesozoic line, but definitely a species you don't see get figures very often, so that's a really exciting one. Then there is also a Triceratops included in here, and of course every single one does have the base. I'm not going to continue to mention that, although we only have one more left, and it's odd that this one ended up being the last, because it would probably be my favorite species, and that would be the Carnotaurus, even though he looks a little goofy, but we've got a Carnotaurus in here as well. And again, I don't know the rarity of these figures. They're probably not very rare at all. They may be rare, I have no idea. But I can tell you that they are really cool in person. I also don't know if this is the complete set. I'll have to look into that and then maybe, try to search out the others if there are any more, which there probably are. Regardless, I'm really psyched to be able to get these guys. And for all of these together, I would say it was probably like $8, maybe $9. So I guess technically these are less than $1 each. So that is a steal if you ask me, and a plethora here of awesome dinosaur figures, and we're just scratching the surface as far as this box goes. Alright, there's not that many figures in here, but I'm just really excited about it. And a lot of these figures you're actually going to see, aside from the ones I just shown you, but a lot of them I actually already have, so they're just kind of repeats, but considering how cheap they were, again, the majority of these figures are probably between $1 to like $6. There are a few that were closer to the $9 or $10 range, but the majority were really, really dirt cheap, which is why I picked them all up. But we also have a Papo Dimetrodon. Now, this one is not obviously a rare figure. It's still in production, but it is a beautiful figure and one of my favorite Dimetrodon figures, I think, that are out there. Again, Papo just did such an incredible job on this as far as like the paint application and the overall detailing aspect. It looks super lifelike, super realistic the way that it's done. Probably one of the better paint applications on a Papo figure, which they usually do a great job, but this looks really, really good. Then we have a Safari Ltd Coelacanth, which is a really nice figure. I don't know that I've ever reviewed this one. I may have to review it now that I have. I actually have this one for sure, but now that I have another, you know, it's pretty exciting. Anytime I can get a Coelacanth figure is a really awesome day, and this is a beautiful Coelacanth, probably the best one out there that I can think of, which I don't know that there's all that many, but that is an exceptionally well done Coelacanth by Safari Ltd. Then we have the Ltd Warthog, which I did not have this one previously, so I'm really happy to enter this guy into my collection. Obviously not the best Warthog out there. That distinction would go to Vitae, but definitely a fun figure again. Any new Ltd figures coming into my collection are welcome for sure, so I'm really happy to have him. And then we've also got the Ltd Aquila Asaurus, and I don't know that I actually pronounced the species name correctly. It's a ceratopsian I'm honestly not too familiar with. I don't know why I've never really been too interested in the species, even if it's a very cool looking, very unique species of ceratopsian. It's just one that for some reason I've just never really looked too far into, but I'm actually probably going to have to at some point soon because I do want to learn more about the species. But this is another figure that I did not have in my collection prior to this, and it's a really cool looking figure, honestly. It's like a really cool looking ceratopsian, of course, but a really cool looking paint scheme on this by Ltd. So another really exciting addition to the collection. And then we also have the Ltd Megalosaurus, and I've always wanted this figure. I don't know why, it just looks so cool, so vintage and old school. It's been on my want list for a very long time. You can see there's a little chip of paint right there, but the majority of these are actually in really good shape. But again, it's been on my want list for a very long time, but I always just kind of passed it up to pick up some other figures from Ltd that I really wanted to get a hold of, and I'm really happy to now have this and be able to acquire it at a really good price. Is super exciting. Then we've also got the original Papo Oviraptor, which is a fun figure. I do have this guy. I actually have this and then the alternate color variant, but I'm really excited to have another one because why not? It's a Papo figure. It's really nice looking. Again, a fantastic paint job on this. Like, it's really well done. I think the paint job on this one might actually be better than the one that I already have, so that is pretty darn exciting right there. But another cool figure included. Now here's one that I do already have, but it's actually become quite rare over the last few years because it was discontinued, which it is the Papo Pachyrinosaurus. So when I had seen this one included, I knew for sure I wanted to get it because anytime a figure's discontinued and I know they're harder to find and I can get a good deal on another, I like to get one just, you know, by the off chance something happens to my original one. I've always got a backup, which I really don't think anything would happen to them because they're in pretty safe places for the most part as far as the current display that I have going on. But again, a beautiful, beautiful figure. I don't know that I've ever reviewed the Pachyrinosaurus either, so maybe I'll have to get on reviewing some more of these guys at some point soon. But that's a really nice figure and a great price on something so rare. And then something that's not a dinosaur, we also have a Safari Ltd Warthog, which I've always wanted to get a Warthog figure. I keep eyeing up the Schleich Warthog that is at Tractor Supply. Every time I go there, I always look at their animal figures, the Schleich animal figures, and I always see the Warthog there. I'm always consistently tempted to buy it, but I haven't done it yet. But I'm really happy to have one here from Safari Ltd, who is obviously one of the leading producers of both dinosaurs and animal figures out there. And it's really cool looking. Definitely getting into animal figures more now as time goes on. Not just dinosaurs. I'm really starting to take a liking to animal figures as well. So that's really cool to see that one in there. And then we have another Papo figure. This is the Velociraptor. I don't know exactly what number release this would be. I would say actually, I think this was probably the second release from the Papo Raptor, because I think we had the Jurassic Park coloration, like that brownish one. Then we had this one. Doesn't look like, oh, he does stand. Look at that. Then we had this one, and then we had like the green one, the rainbow type of a variant. So we've had quite a few of this style raptor over time. This one has an unreasonably glossy look to it, though. I already have this figure, and mine doesn't have a glossy look like this, so it's very weird that it has such a glossy appearance. I don't know what the story is on the gloss coat that's added to this figure. I don't know if maybe at some point Papo had made a run that did in fact include this gloss coat, but he looks very, very shiny, and the other one that I have like this does not. And then we have the Ltd Pangolin, and this is one that I've always been kind of unsure of whether I wanted to own it or not, because I saw quite a few images of the head sculpt, and he looks super goofy, almost like a turtle, I would say. So I was always very questionable as far as actually going through with a purchase on this guy, but he was included in the one lot that I purchased that had quite a few other figures in that I wanted, and we obviously now have it in my collection, so at least I was able to get it for a cheap price. It actually looks much nicer in person than I was expecting it to, but obviously not up to Ltd's current standards. Then we have the Ltd Cryolophosaurus, and this is one figure that I've always wanted, kind of, but always wasn't sure because the promotional images didn't make it look all that great, but I can definitely say that in person it is way more appealing than I expected it to be like. It's actually not a bad figure at all. Obviously, it's not the most up-to-date and accurate interpretation of a Cryolophosaurus, but considering its time that this figure was made, it's actually really well done, and a really cool and quite shockingly nice addition to this box. And then we have the Ltd Dinosaurus. A lot of these figures aren't, rare or anything at this point. There are some more rare figures included in here, but this one I just recently purchased. So I was like maybe about 2 or 3 months ago I actually purchased it, and I've been wanting to get it up and reviewed, and now I got another one. So now I have 2 of these. I should have just waited it out. I could have got it for a cheaper price, but regardless, it's still fun to have 2, especially when it comes to a dinosaur like this where, you could have a mating pair or something like that. And then we have the Ltd Baby Woolly Mammoth. Now, I actually did not have this. I recently reviewed the adult Ltd Mammoth, but I didn't have this one, obviously, at the time of that review. And now that I have it, it's kind of depressing because I would have liked to have reviewed it with the adult, but a really nice-looking baby mammoth, and something I may review at some point just because I didn't include it in the previous Ltd Mammoth review. And then we have the Safari Ltd Dilophosaurus. I didn't think he was going to stand without the tail touching, but this is a figure that I really quite like. I actually reviewed him a little ways back, and in that review I think I had stated that I wanted to buy another to repaint at some point, maybe give a JP-style paint scheme to, and now that I have 2, I'm probably going to repaint this one, or maybe I'll repaint my old one. I'm not entirely sure which route I'm going to take. I'm probably going to have to get the other one out and then compare and contrast as to who has the nicer paint, but regardless, it's a definite welcome addition to my collection. And then we also have the Ltd Corythosaurus, and this is another one I did not have, and I really did want to get a hold of, even though it's not the best Corythosaurus out there, not the most accurate Corythosaurus out there, or even highly detailed. As you can see, the detailing in the face looks, for the most part, a little washed out, but this is also a really old Ltd release, so it's been out for quite some time, considering their older figures weren't all that great, at the start of Ltd, so it's not that shocking that the figure isn't as incredible as your modern Ltd figures, but still something I've really wanted to get a hold of, especially when there are so few Corythosaurus figures out there. And then we have another animal figure, a Safari Ltd Pangolin, and really cool looking, but obviously not the best figure included in the lot here, but definitely something that's fun to add to my collection that I definitely did not have previously. Again, I don't have all that many animal figures in my collection, but I'm really starting to want to get more of them as time goes on. Not that I have the room for them, but it's definitely a fun way to get some, including them in random lots like this, where I'm not aiming to get animal figures, but I do get them because they're just kind of really cool extras that are added in, and that's a pretty nice looking figure overall. And then we also have the Safari Ltd Rhamphorhynchus. I do have this guy, so I now have 2, but I really love the figure overall. I reviewed this one as well not too long ago, and I definitely stated and stressed in that review that I was in love with the figure, and I still am to this day, so having a second is definitely not a bad thing. And the next one is a figure that I was searching for so long, and then I broke down and bought it probably about 4 months ago, maybe. It's probably not a very accurate estimate, but I did end up buying it quite a little ways back, And I'm okay with actually having two because it's a beautiful figure. This is the Ltd Paraceratherium. This is a discontinued figure from Ltd, so it is quite rare. It's definitely a hard one to come by, so having two is actually okay by me because now I won't have to worry if anything happens to one. I've still got another, or I have, a mating pair. Either way, it's really exciting to have yet another of these, especially considering its rarity. And then there is also the tiniest little elephant in the world. I assume he's just some sort of a little baby elephant. He's kind of like a rubbery feel. I know absolutely nothing about this figure. It doesn't have a brand name attached to it, so I have no idea of its origins, but he's pretty fun. And then we have the Ltd Pachyrinosaurus. Now my camera's crooked, but we have the Ltd Pachyrinosaurus, another figure I definitely didn't have in my collection. Obviously not the best of Ltd's work, but it is still a part of Ltd history, so it's something that, I did want to get my hands on, even if it's not the most appealing interpretation of a Pachyrinosaurus. And then we have some figures that I don't know if they're actually discontinued or not, because I don't know too much about the company, but I am really taking a liking to them more and more as time goes on. But this is the Bullyland, and I believe, yes, it is an Ankylosaurus. So we have the Bullyland Ankylosaurus, which sports a really cool looking paint scheme, actually. I really quite like the paint apps on it. But as time goes on, I'm really getting such a huge soft spot for the Bullyland line, and really enjoying finding more, but they're really hard to find, like super hard to find a lot of the Bullyland figures. So finding some in here is definitely a really convenient way to get a hold of some, and I actually have another one in here. And that would be the Pachycephalosaurus. I should probably face in this direction. But we've got the Bullyland Pachycephalosaurus as well. Two figures that, as far as the Bullyland line goes, I absolutely did not have. So it's two figures I'm super happy to now have in my collection. And then we have one of the rarest figures in the box, and probably one of the most valuable, which is the Safari Ltd Scootasaurus. And I actually already do have this one, so now I have two of this guy. I actually purchased one from Killer Shrew Fan. He actually sold me a Scootasaurus a ways back, not too long ago, honestly, while they were still really valuable. He gave it to me for an incredibly awesome price, and I now was lucky enough to acquire a second, so that is very exciting to me, especially, again, considering the rarity of this figure. If you go and check out eBay and check out some of the sold listings for this poor Scootasaurus who desperately needs a re-release from Safari Ltd, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about as far as the value of it goes. A very expensive figure in today's market, but a beautiful Scootasaurus regardless. And now we are at the final four figures included in this lot, one of which that we're bringing in right now, and you can probably tell what it is already, is a discontinued figure from Safari Ltd. This is obviously their Carnegie collection, Spinosaurus, and it is a beautiful version of a Spinosaurus. Obviously no longer accurate. This thing was made quite a ways back, so accuracy isn't something you need to take into consideration with this figure, but it has always been one of my favorite Spinosaurus figures, and I do have one, but I'm really happy to now have two of this figure because, again, based on its rarity alone, it's really exciting to have two entered in my collection. Just in case something ever happens to one, I would have a very hard time acquiring a second without paying a fortune, so I now have this one right here, and I won't need to do that. And then we have one of the longest dinosaur figures in history, and I think you may know what this is, but if you think that it looks, it doesn't look all that long, well, let's give it a second here. We'll flip it around. We'll take a look from this side, and the head is already knocking things over out of frame here, but we can see that this dinosaur is exceptionally long, and this is the old Safari Ltd Mamenchisaurus, and it is a beautiful figure. This is now the second of this figure to enter my collection as well, and I was really happy to have acquired the first one. Even more so excited to have a second because, again, a very hard to find figure, very rare, old and long retired, and a really cool looking figure. Again, a beautiful piece of Safari Ltd history that I'm happy to have two of in my collection. And then another quite rare and discontinued figure, another Safari Ltd figure at that. We also have the Camarosaurus, and this one as well has been discontinued for quite a few years now, and in my opinion is probably the best Camarosaurus that is out there currently. I like this one even better than their newer one, which their newer one is fantastic, but this one has just always been, a really appealing figure to me, both the sculpt, the paint, everything about it. I've just been in love with this figure ever since I purchased my initial one, so another one that I now have two of in my collection, but a gorgeous Camarosaurus. And the final figure included in this box, and this is the one that I did pay 20 bucks for, which I probably didn't need to. If I had just waited a little bit, I could have like combined the shipping on this one and got it for like $13, I think. But when I saw it, I knew I really wanted to get a hold of it, so I just purchased it right away, as opposed to waiting for like a combined shipping or anything like that to get it for a little bit cheaper. So I just paid the $20 for it instantly, and that would be what you see before you. Most people probably already know what we're looking at here, and that is the Ltd Diplodocus, one of the rarest dinosaur figures out there currently that you're ever going to find. It is so insanely rare, and judging by the looks of it from Terabyte currently, probably not going to get a re-release at any point in the future. I would love to see it get a re-release, maybe with a new updated paint scheme, but unfortunately, every time I've questioned them about re-releasing some more of their older figures, they say that they have no plans to do so. So unfortunately, it looks as though we're stuck buying this second hand, but I now have 2 of this in my collection. This is the second one that I have found for actually a really good price. I haven't paid very much for any of these yet, so I'm really happy to have yet another of this gorgeous Diplodocus from the Ltd line. So this has been one heck of an incredibly awesome unboxing. Again, a steal of a deal on so many insanely awesome figures that I am so happy to enter into my collection. So again, if there are any figures that you saw in this video you'd like to see reviewed on the channel, make sure you leave a comment down below telling me so, and I will work on getting those reviews up as time goes on. Otherwise, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.